the best ciabatta rolls ever, ever, ever. And you're gonna make them yourself, and I'm gonna show you how to do it using just a bowl, a whisk, and some upper body power, I should say. They are fantastic. You will love them. And I don't know about you, but summertime calls for some ciabatta rolls. Like, I just feel like a pool sandwich tastes better on a ciabatta roll. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, you don't need much. You need basic ingredients, which you might already have on hand, and we're just gonna do it in a bowl. And I'm gonna walk you through it. Starting off with some all-purpose flour. I have it in a large bowl here. To that all-purpose flour, I am going to add in some sugar and some instant yeast. I am going to link the yeast that I use in the description down below because it's something I get questions on every single time I use it. And I don't know, I'm telling you right now, I don't know what magic is in this, but I am convinced that this yeast is the reason my baked goods, my yeasted doughs, are as sublime as they are, okay? They never fail me. I switch my yeast out every 6 months just because I feel like my brain tells me to. You don't have to, and I keep it in the fridge in a glass jar. This is what it looks like in my fridge. And every 6 months, I replace it with a new batch. You don't have to, but I do. And it's just the best yeast ever. So I'm gonna add these two to my flour. This is a dough whisk. You can use a wooden spoon, okay? I just find it a little bit easier to use a dough whisk. To this, I am going to add some warm water. Not cold, but warm. And I'm just gonna use my whisk to help me gather it all up. You see how it's very shaggy? It's almost come together. This is a time where I'm just gonna use my clean hands really quickly. You need a couple teaspoons of salt. I'm just gonna do it by eye. And now I'm going to just remove it. And then I'm just gonna take my hands to pull this together, and it's just gonna take me, look, I'm not even gonna cut this because look how quickly this takes. It does not have to be perfect. You do not need it to be perfect. You just need it to be like this, where you've just incorporated the flour with everything else. So here's what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna cover it. This is not a shower cap. Every time I use these, people go, "You're using a shower cap?" No, although I'm sure you could use like a brand new one if you had one lying around in its packaging. These are food covers, bowl covers. And I'm going to let this rest for 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, we'll do our first set of stretch and folds. I like to do 2 of them. I'll show you what it looks like when we come back in about 30 minutes. I'm gonna wash up and get ready. 30 minutes in, it's time for our first stretch and fold. Now, why we do stretch and fold is because it really helps with the overall structure of your bread, and it helps with gluten development, and I feel it overall makes a much better sort of artisan loaf, like a loaf of bread. Anytime you're working with yeasted savory dough, I like to do it, but you actually don't have to. But I do think the end result is infinitely better when you do. I like to dip my fingertips in a little bit of water just so that the dough doesn't stick to your fingers. And you just basically grab from the very sides of the bread. I already did most of them, but I'll show you my second stretch and fold session. You just grab like this gently because you don't want to tear it, and you sort of like pinch it, or sort of seal it back in itself and right in the center. And now what I'm gonna do is I am going to cover this up again because I like to do 3 sets of stretch and folds. And I'm just gonna cover this again and let it go for another 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, we'll do our second session. Second set of stretch and folds. It's been 30 minutes. You can also do coil folds, but I don't think it's necessary. This is how you do it. You take from the side and it goes into the center. Rotate, lightly stretch so that you don't want to tear your dough, which this dough is so happy and so forgiving. It's kind of impossible to mess up, and it works every single time. And I like to do rolls, but you can also just make a couple of loaves of ciabatta bread instead, and it would be wonderful. Now here's your option. You can do 1 more set of stretch and fold in 30 minutes, or by this point you can just let this go, let it rise until it's about doubled in volume, which is pretty much what I'm gonna do. I typically do about 3 stretch and folds, but 3 sessions of stretch and folds, but I'm actually just gonna do 2 today, and I'm just gonna set this aside. Mia does this all the time, so it's like in my head. I'm gonna set this again. I'm gonna set it aside and I'm just gonna let it just gently rise. Could take an hour, could take 2. It really just depends on your environment, how warm your environment is. This is probably gonna take about an hour and a half. And when we're there, I will show you the next step because we're gonna bake it. So when we get there, I will show you that. Dough is ready and she is beautiful. I do want to talk you through something that I forgot to mention. You need to add about a tablespoon of olive oil to your dough. Like when you add your water, add in your olive oil. It skipped me, and normally that's totally fine. Your bread will still come out perfect, but I went in for a 3rd session of stretch and folds, so I just added my olive oil when I did that, and then just let it rise until it was about doubled in volume, which took a couple hours because the air conditioning's on, and it's good to go. I have my oven preheated to 425, and you want to make sure your oven's well preheated. Give it a good hour. And then what you also want to have ready is a 9 by 13 inch baking pan that you're going to put that at the very bottom on the lowest rack of your oven, because we're going to put some water in there when you go to bake these. But it's hard for me to show you that, so I'm just going to walk you through it. Your dough is ready. I've got a baking sheet ready with some parchment paper. To that baking sheet, I'm just going to sprinkle just a tiny little touch of flour, not too much. And I'm going to do the same thing to my counter. And like I said, it could take an hour, it could take you 2 hours until these are ready to go. It just really depends on the environment. And I have a couple of those scrapers here. Look at this dough. This dough is beautiful. She is so beautiful. Really bouncy. I'm not going to deflate this too much, and I don't want you to do the same. So a little flour on top. This is how I shape them. And here's the thing about ciabatta rolls, even store-bought ones, they're never all perfect, okay? This is what I do. I take my fingertips very lightly, and I kind of just see how it's really light and beautiful, bubbly. I try to turn this into a square as best I can and try to flatten it the best I can without actually deflating all of that beautiful air. And you want to keep this a square if possible. But the only important thing here, which is what I like to do with my fingertips because I can maneuver it nicely, is that it's just all about the same thickness. Now your edges are going to be slightly thinner than the rest, but that's okay. That is just fine. Okay, just want to turn it like that. I'm going to use a bench scraper. It works the best, and I'm just going to go straight out like that, straight out like that, and then I'll cut each one in half for really nice big size ciabatta rolls, because you know ciabatta are usually square. And then you're just going to delicately pick them up, place them on your baking sheet, maneuver them a little bit if you want to. Like you see how this one over here, you can always just kind of fold a little piece underneath just to get it into like a little square pocket, like so. Do the same to these guys. I just want them to be a little more square because you know I'm going to be making sandwiches with these. And do you know what I have planned for these? Let me tell you what I got planned for these. Sausage and broccoli rabe. You know what I'm saying? I know I have a very happy cameraman on my hands. I know he is thrilled. I know he thought to himself, he's thinking to himself, jackpot, jackpot. And I would be lying if I said he wasn't right. You know what I mean? I'm gonna put a little more flour over there because of course I never cut my parchment paper big enough, you know? Now, these are beautiful. They're gonna be so perfect, just you wait. This is a little bit smaller one. It's all right. These are gonna go into my preheated oven. I take a little bit of flour. Now this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna pay attention to what I'm saying, okay? You're gonna place an oven rack at the very bottom, okay? On the bottom rack, you're gonna put your 9 by 13 inch baking dish. To that 9 by 13 inch baking dish, you're gonna pour 2 cups of water. You're gonna put your baking sheet on the middle rack. You're gonna bake it like that. Close the oven real quick because you wanna trap that steam. And you're gonna bake them that way for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, you're gonna remove the baking tray with the water and you're gonna continue to bake them for an additional 15 minutes. When they're there, they'll be a beautiful golden color. I will show you what they look like, but let them cool before you cut into them. Like I said, I will show you what they look like when they're there. These went in the oven 20 minutes with the pan with the water for steam. Then I took the pan out and they went back in for like 18 minutes and they are gorgeous. Now they are still warm. And something important you should know about bread is that you really should let it cool completely before you cut into it. I cannot take it another second because if you smelled how good these smell, you would understand why I'm cutting into it right away. I'm taking a small one and look at the texture. Like they are just a classic ciabatta roll. And I'm gonna cut it this way. But as I said, they're still warm, but look at that texture. Look at that interior. Look at that. If you can resist one of these hot out of the oven. I don't know if we could be friends. They are so good. You have to promise me that you will make these. Not only that, promise me that you will double the recipe so that you can have a stash for your freezer. I'm actually making a double recipe tomorrow so I can have a stash for my freezer because these are fantastic to have on hand. Keep some prosciutto in the fridge, a little cheese, and you have a snack or lunch or whatever anytime. They're fantastic. They're the best of the best. Perfect, easy, no fancy equipment, no fancy ingredients. LauraInthekitchen.com has a full written recipe for you. I hope you enjoyed spending time with me. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.